the difference between empathy and compassion is empathy is understanding, compassion is being moved to solve. So
Mm.
you want to be moved to take action for your users. You should be in that situation where you understand how painful something is or how inspiring something could be. And it's a big enough problem that you feel like you need to advocate for a solution. And I think that's where I think product managers who really care that deeply about the problems they're solving are the ones who tend to be the most successful.
Welcome to Product Side Stories, the podcast where we reveal the very real and raw lessons learned from product leaders and thinkers all over the world. I'm your host, Nicole Tieche. In this segment, we interview today's trailblazing women in product management. Today, our guest is Laura Williams Argilla, creative product executive who has worked at companies like Netflix, Tableau, and Adobe. I'm very excited for her to share with us her insights and experiences in the world of product management. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me, Nicole. It's good to be here.
Great. And I love how on your LinkedIn profile, your bio says you are a lifelong storyteller. So can you share how that passion, what role that passion might have played in guiding you into a career in product management?
Yeah, well, it's a multi-layered influence in getting me into product management. I started actually with an undergraduate degree in broadcasting because I wanted to do educational television,
Oh,
having been inspired by Mr. Rogers as a kid and
I
helping
love
people to
it.
connect with the world around them. Um, from there, I was not in tech. I was actually working at an art college in San Francisco, running the technical side of their motion pictures department and training editors when I was reached out to by a recruiter looking for somebody to fill a quality engineering role at Adobe. And
Oh,
it sounded interesting. I didn't really know what quality engineering was, told them I wasn't, in fact, an engineer and that they had the wrong person. And they explained what the role was, which was use the tools, tell us what's wrong, and we fix it. And I was like, whoa, that's a thing? That's amazing. And so I went to Adobe on the Premiere Pro team, which at the time was just the Premiere team. But when I got there, product management has been an evolving field for a very long time. This was in 2000 when I joined Adobe, and the product management function was still, evolving into what it is today. And I think we'll continue to see
absolutely.
product management evolve. But in the role that I was in, because I had the direct experience of being an editor, working with editors, understanding film and television, I did a lot of things that now would be considered product management. So doing user requirements, helping to design the features, helping to make cases for prioritization. And so pretty much from day one, I was helping our product management team to decide what needed to be in the product or out of the product, to decide which designs were strong and which ones would be confusing, what the industry standards were and what the expectations were. And what I was able to do there was really understand the user perspective and bring that into a technical environment and explain. So do the storytelling there, which is, this is what people need, this is why they need it, this is how they're using it, this is why what we have right now isn't working. But make it personal and make it connect to that human instinct. I
Yes.
always kind of talk about it as translating because different roles within the organization have different needs for the kind of story that you tell. And so you wouldn't come in and tell exactly the same requirement needs to another product and to a product manager that you would to a quality engineer, because they're going to really look at how do I break it? How do I test it? How do I make sure that it's not going to fall down? Whereas the product manager is really going to look for the inspirational story of, hey, we're fixing this thing that makes your life better. So it's always been about how do you share the feelings and the needs of the user in a way that people can easily connect to. And I think the core of that is storytelling.
Absolutely. How funny that that role had the title engineer in it. It's like that's not the thing. So how good of you to really press in and pursue that almost despite the title, which I agree would have been, I'm not sure I'm the right person. But and wow, what change you would have seen in product management over this 20 plus years, like you're saying. What now is really inspiring you in the world of product management?
Wow, there's a lot in product management that's inspiring, and then there's a lot that I think is is evolving in a way that I'm not sure is helping us.
More,
So I think
yeah, let's touch on that too. But yeah,
yeah,
what's inspiring in maybe a good way?
yeah, I think the most inspiring thing for me is that there's a real understanding of what the value of product management is, and that hasn't
Mm,
always been clear.
right.
I know when I first started, people kind of lumped product management in with marketing as though it were just like a how do you get something publicized or into market, and not really
Mm,
the whole thought process on what is it that's going to evolve the product, how do we design for the future, how do we understand the users in a way that's meaningful, and then measure how we're doing. So I think that the value and kind of the growth around making sure that the value has real impact is probably the most inspiring thing. I
mm,
also think there's so many different programs and organizations out there that are really helping to reach a diverse set of product managers. So we're not just getting the typical engineer turned product manager, which is not necessarily a bad career
mm,
progression, but it's different when you have people from industry or from a different background come in and have fresh eyes on a product space. And getting more people, more voices helps to represent a way broader audience on the end, and that's
absolutely.
inspiring.
A broader customer base, you're saying,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
voice of the diverse voice from your product management team helps connect with a diverse audience of
Yeah,
customers for sure.
definitely.
That's great. So you touched on maybe some challenges that you're seeing arise or being more prevalent in product management. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I think that we have gone down the path of being able to measure and value everything. And I worry sometimes that we go so far down the path of what is measurable that we
Hmm.
forget that there are some qualitative um, traits within good products that are more difficult to measure.
Yeah.
Additionally, certain types of products have more of a like a broader scope than a single button. Like I can convince somebody to click a button, but is that the ultimate action that needs to
Hmm.
take to make it successful? How do we help people if we're exposing information? How do we know we're exposing the right information? Because it's not clear if we've done that necessarily, because the outcome
Hmm.
could be disconnected. It could be them taking that information and going to a presentation or to writing a document that then is the ultimate outcome. So I think that we need to get back into balance where there is the quantitative that we can measure, the things that we instrument, and how we think about those. But I also think we need to remember that we're still making tools for human beings and not forget that the human beings need to be inspired by the tool. We need to really understand how they
Hmm.
work and how their world comes together, what piece of the puzzle our products play in that, and get one step back from I can measure this to how does it influence their whole work life or their whole creative life or whatever it is that we're building life. Um, and some of that's hard to measure. And so
Hmm.
I worry sometimes that we get hooked on a certain way of proving value and lose
Hmm.
some flexibility in how do we really understand that it's making life better for our users.
Yeah, almost the epitome of like vanity metrics, if you will, gone wrong, right? When
Yes.
you really,
Yeah.
yeah, like you say, you want to get at the heart of your customer. Is there maybe an anecdote or success story where you feel just really proud of something that just went really well in that regard, connecting with your customers as humans?
Wow. I tend to really value product managers who are excited about talking to customers. So the more we talk to customers, the better we understand. It's not that we just take feedback and go, okay, they tell me they want this pink, I'm going to go make it pink. But to get into that, like, why pink?
Mm.
Why is that
Mhm.
the right way to do it? Um, I'm having a hard time coming up with like a really stellar, like glossy example, but I can think of cases where there have been times where a motivation for a behavior has been tied to something that is wrong, and digging into
Mm.
the what was behind that motivation, what really gets users to do the thing that we need them to do. I'm thinking about some of the engagement metrics that we had when we were at Twitch. We saw some
Okay.
things really launch with great success, and we made assumptions about why that behavior was so successful.
Huh.
And yet when we stepped back and did a lot more analysis of both user research and user interviews and look at those products, we were able to create a product framework that helped us to really identify what the true user motivations were. And they weren't what we thought they were.
Oh,
It
interesting.
was simple to attribute it to like a very clear trait of the product that had been so successful. But what was really moving people was like a secondary trait. It was, I can do something that helps me appear as a key member of the community. It wasn't the specific action that had been taken that did that. It was that next level need of, in the community at Twitch, I want to be a big participant. I want to be recognized. I want the streamer to recognize me as well as other members of the community. And I think that those shifts, it was not so much the specific action, it was the motivation behind that action. And to me, that was what was really valuable to that team. When we got into that level, all of a sudden it kind of unlocked a lot of why things that we thought should have worked didn't, or why there were motivations that were untapped yet. And so, I mean, I think that the team at Twitch has really done a great job taking that forward, and moved on in a way that really helps to engage people and build those communities.
Excellent. And can you share maybe how you got to that deeper layer? Was it more talking with customers, the research, or how do you recommend really pressing in to get to the reason behind the
Yeah.
reason?
So there were a couple of different steps that we took. One of the interesting things in that situation is that there's a relationship between the streamer and the community that we really understand, or we understood pretty well, why people like a certain streamer or why people watch a certain stream. But what I think we didn't have as clear an idea on was the relationship between the community and the community itself, like how that role played. What we ended up doing was taking a lot of user research that had been done over the years and looking at it as a collective whole, and then also speaking with a lot of users and streamers. Because some of the things that we had to figure out is what makes a streamer excited about a feature. It's not just the features that we were creating were the ones that were in the commerce organization that helped pay their bills. So streamers have to eat. We want to make sure that they're excited about, getting their bills paid through these actions that help finance that. But sometimes we'd launch things and people would be like, I don't like it. I'm not going to promote that. And we'd need to understand, what is it that makes you comfortable or passionate about a feature that we are introducing, so you promote it and use it. And I don't think we had always taken that into account at the level that we needed to. So it was talking to streamers, it was talking to creators of other types, it was talking with the community members themselves, and then putting that against all of the really in-depth research that our user research team had done, and coming up with some assumptions. And then what we did after we came up with this first pass at a framework was back test it. So we looked at all of the things that we had launched in the previous 3-5 years and saw if we were right, if the things that had launched had met these needs, and if the things that were performing well, how well they had met these needs was definitely correlated with how well those products succeeded. And so we decided that we'd put this out, we'd socialize it with the team, took feedback from the team as well. And when we settled on what we felt the real structure was, we also talked to the CEO, Emmett Shear at the time, who was one of the founders of Twitch, really understood the community, really understood how things work. And when he was passionate about it, yes, I see this as this is unlocking that puzzle. It helped us then to define the next features that we wanted to do and help. And when we took that in mind, that it was a multifaceted relationship between the streamer, between the streamer and community, community and community, that all of those things were really important. We started launching some products that were really, really well received, and I think that it's that deep understanding of why people use the things they use, how they use them, and what benefit they get from them that helps to motivate good product building.
Yes, that customer understanding is just so valuable. Sounds like that
Definitely
really feeds into your strategy, right? As it should. Great advice for product managers for sure. So I want to step back to, we were talking about diversity of,
Yes.
of product managers. And what we really love to do with this segment is be that inspiration for women who may be considering a career in product management. As you already said, product managers usually come from different areas of a company and find themselves in product management in all different kinds of ways. I'd love to hear some advice you might have, Laura, for women who are listening and really contemplating a move into product management.
Yeah, well, I think my first piece of advice is there's not one path to product management. When I went to
True.
university, I certainly didn't think I'd end up in tech. I loved technology, but I loved a specific area of technology and really was more on the creative technical side, like how to use the
Mm,
technology to tell stories.
interesting.
Um,
Yes.
I know some of the best product managers I know didn't go through the business school MBA route, and I know that
Mm,
is what gets recommended a lot. I think the most important thing for a product manager is be curious. Um, Ask why. Don't make assumptions that you know something. I find that the best product managers that I've worked with tend to question everything. Um, you go to coffee with them and they're like, I wonder why this is this and this is that. And it's not just the work part. They're the ones who ask
right.
questions about everything. Um, and I think that being curious, really being able to define why that's a value is
Mm,
is critical. Um, I think being passionate about making things better. Um, well, I think a lot of times when we talk about product management, we talk about user empathy, and I think we need to take it beyond that. The next level is compassion. So you want to
mm,
make sure that the difference between empathy and compassion is empathy is understanding, compassion is being moved to solve. So
mm,
you want to be moved to take action for your users. You should be in that situation where you understand how painful something is or how inspiring something could be. And it's a big enough problem that you feel like you need to advocate for a solution. And I think that's where I think product managers who really care that deeply about the problems they're solving are the ones who tend to be the most successful. If you're interested in product management, the first thing I would say is look at what you're doing right now in whatever role you're in and start framing it in terms of, can you identify real problems?
mm,
What
mm,
steps do you take to create the problem statement, which needs to be very concise and very focused? How do you go about storytelling? How do you bring other people along journeys with you? So how do you tell a story about maybe not the sexiest product feature or not the sexiest problem in the world, and bring somebody into it where they're like, yeah, we need to solve that. I get it. That is painful. That is terrible. How do you ask people questions? How do you get into the conversations with people where they aren't just telling you, yeah, I love this thing that you built. It's really, really good, even though it's causing them pain every day. How do you get
mm,
trust? How do you gain trust?
mm.
I think being a good writer is really important. Being able to write clearly and succinctly without a lot of fluff words is important. And then the other thing is starting to think about, how do you measure things? How do you know if something's working? Are you getting the right thing? And then I think the final underrated skill of product managers is being able to not fall in love with the solution, but
Mm.
really fall in love with solving the problem. So if you get into that path of solving a problem for someone and you release something, this is going to solve it, and it doesn't,
Ay.
being humble enough to know that we're always learning and that that's
Mm,
not going to knock you down and leave you crushed, that, oh, well, no, this is definitely what it was. I don't know what's wrong with our users. It's probably something wrong with the solution, and being able to go back and say, okay, we tried this. It was, let's go and do some analysis. Was it
mm,
that it wasn't discoverable? Was it that it was too complex? Was it that it solved the wrong part of the problem? Was it that it was too many steps down the problem space where people already felt like they had lost control? Or did I just misunderstand?
yeah.
And being able to go back and really do that follow-up evaluation, re-troubleshoot the solution, and then have the boldness to go ahead and pivot if it needs to
Mm.
change, being able to say, here's how I would change it and here's why. Um, the
Because if
other
it
thing that
didn't
product
solve the
manager,
problem, oh, sorry.
yeah. Oh, no, no, no,
I was
that's
gonna
fine.
say, if it didn't solve the problem, then it's not the solution. Right? So
Exactly.
being humble enough to acknowledge that and still pursue what the solution might be.
Yeah. And I think there's one I said that was the final secret sauce, but I think one of the hardest things product managers have to do is say no. Figure out what
Mm.
problems are big enough to solve, what problems are meaningful enough to solve, what ones aren't. Because we never have the time to do everything. We never have the resources to do everything. So being able to rigidly prioritize, this is the most important thing, this is the second most important thing, and this thing is a nice to have, and we're not going to have
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Those things, I think the empathy, prioritization, building trust, being able to storytell, being flexible and being committed to solving problems all play together to make a really great product manager. So if you're interested in product management, start looking at some of how do you do these now, and start positioning yourself that way in LinkedIn, on your resume.
Mm.
Highlight
Mm.
these skills, even if you're in a different job space, even if you're, you could be in customer service and you're listening, you're building trust, you're identifying problems, you're identifying potential solutions, you're telling those problems to people who might be able to solve it. And these skills are spread across multitudes of roles. So it's not like they're unique to product management. That's just kind of what the core of our role is.
Well, and I love how you were sharing, your friend over coffee was practicing product management skills just in everyday life. So certainly, even if you don't have that title yet, how can you practice that empathy, curiosity, problem solving, identifying problems, just around your house with your family, with a friend over coffee. That's
Definitely.
great advice. I'm sure product managers would say they're always in that mindset. So certainly ways to practice that before one even has the title.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Laura, is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
Um, Nothing springs to mind other than I think that the product management community is pretty tight. If you have an interest in product management, take that first bold step and reach out to somebody you admire. If you see
Mm.
somebody in a role that you would really like, go ahead and ping them. I've done mentoring and coaching just based on a LinkedIn connection.
Oh,
And I
fantastic.
think that those things are some of the best ways to go about making that move, because I can give the generic advice of identify what looks in your role as as product manager as possible. But sometimes by going through a conversation or helping to get coached for an interview or have someone review your resume, and there's a lot of people who really want to help other people be successful in this industry, that there's opportunities. Just build those personal connections, because I think they matter, and they're how you do it. And it's a huge part of the product management job is being able to put yourself out there. So
For sure. Would you like to share how people can get in touch with you?
absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Laura Williams Argilla. And I know that's a crazy long name, but if you put Argilla, Argilla, into LinkedIn, you will get me and probably 3 other Argillas in the entire world. And I become pretty easy to find. If you send me a message on LinkedIn, I will respond. I
Oh, I love
just, in general, always make sure to keep that door open, because I think that's how, when you say yes to helping others, the world gets a little better.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'd love to end on that. That's a great note. Laura, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to hear about your journey and your advice and all what you've learned and sharing. Thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a nice conversation.
Thank you for tuning in to Product Side Stories. I hope today's insights inspire you and propel your product journey forward. Remember, every challenge is a lesson waiting to be learned. Visit us at productside.com for more free resources like webinars, templates, playbooks, and other product wisdom we've packaged for you. I'm Nicole Tieche, and until next time, keep innovating, keep leading, and keep creating stories worth sharing.